call out this time of year. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started with the October 4th. Nope, 5th. It's the 5th today. For the 4th was Walk to School Day. The Safe Routes to School Network call. We're all still living on Walk to School Day. What is the Safe Routes to School Network? We are hundreds of dedicated professionals from organizations across Minnesota that are advancing safe routes to school. We're making our communities safer, more welcoming, more fun for kids of all ages, races, income levels, abilities to walk and roll and bike to school. My name is Alyssa Shuffman. I work at Move Minnesota and I facilitate the network calls. Our friends, I think Kelly and Dave, are going to be doing a Walk to School Day recap for us at the top of the call because it's on everybody's minds. And then we will hear from our friend Steve over at MnDOT about some infrastructure 101, just get us regrounded in some of the changes that we can make to make the infrastructure around our school community safer. And then we'll have a little bit of discussion before we close. So that is the plan for today. I'm going to remind myself how to stop screen sharing and toss it over to the team at MnDOT to talk a little bit about Walk to School Day. If you're just logging on, introduce yourself in the chat, name, pronouns, where you're calling in from, and a place you enjoy walking as we talk about Walk to School Day. And Dave, if you're talking, you're on. You're not.
Wasn't talking. Yeah. Every time you share your screen with us, it reorganizes all the windows, and so I find myself looking for the unmute button every single time. Hi, folks. I'm Dave Cowan, Safe Routes to School Coordinator here at MnDOT. I'm partially giving an update on Walk to School Day, but really, I think all of you have the updates. So I'm gonna flash through a little bit of what we learned on social media and via email yesterday, and then maybe ask some of you that are related to some of these sites to jump on. So if you had an excellent Walk to School Day event and you know that we have an image of yours that we might be talking about here, you're ready to come off of mute. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is some of our upcoming solicitations. Steve is going to dive deep into infrastructure solicitation. I'm going to kind of touch lightly on some of the things that you can be expecting over the next month or two to come out of MnDOT, opportunities for you and the communities that you work with to apply for funding for Safe Routes to School. I think we keep this slide in here just to keep it on the top of your mind that these events, hopefully you all got out to a Walk to School Day event or walked around your neighborhood yesterday and saw some students participating. We like to get these dates out in front of you so that you can get them out in front of the people that you work with, the schools, your Safe Routes to School team, and start planning all the way back here in October for the rest of the school year. So we have Walk to School Day that just passed on October 4th, which is not today. Today is October 5th, Alyssa. February 7th is Winter Walk to School Day. And then we have Bike to School Day coming up at the beginning of May there. And this is one that we've been getting questions about. And frankly, I have a question about it too. Bike to School Day is usually the first Wednesday in May. This year it is not. It is the second Wednesday in May. We're just following National's lead on here. So May 8th is Bike to School Day this year. It might, if you have that differently on your calendar, you may want to change it. I just did it on mine yesterday. This is a reminder, maybe if you're working with a community or you are a community that had a Walk to School Day event, in terms of like measuring progress and impact and is what we're doing working, we look at these numbers of schools that have registered at the walkbiketoschool.org website for Walk to School Day events. So even if you didn't get your registration in time and we weren't able to send you materials for your event, we ask that you try to register schools after the fact if they didn't get registered before the fact so that we can make sure and count you. One thing that we've definitely seen is a spike in participation since the pandemic. We've been kind of watching as we've tried to return to kind of a more normal level of schools participating in these kinds of activities. So please do that. Head over to walkbiketoschool.org if you haven't and get registered. We did have 183 schools register this year, which is pretty darn close to how it was back in 2019. I think we were right around 200 back then. The governor did make a proclamation for Walk and Bike to School Day. And as far as I've seen so far, there was lots of earned media for these events. A lot of the communities around Minnesota contacting the various news organizations, but also bringing in elected officials, the kind of people that bring the media along with them. And so Walk to School Day, I think, got a lot of lip service yesterday, which is good for the program. It's good for your work, and elevates the issues that you might have related to walking and biking to school in your community. Another fun way that we try to support this is with our Minnesota Safe Routes to School photo contest. Maybe you took some rad pictures yesterday. Please send those to me. If you were registered, I've already emailed you about that and asked for that. If you weren't registered, you can always send those to Kelly or I, or you can post them to the Minnesota Safe Routes to School Facebook page with the hashtag of MnWalks. And then we announce that winner. I think the deadline, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, is October 20th for submission. And we hope to announce the winner of the photo contest by the end of October. That's a pretty sweet photo, speaking of good photos. So a couple of events that we had going on around the state. New Ulm, Bree, I see you there. You all definitely had some earned media. I think you even made it on the MnDOT's main social media feed. Is there anything you wanted to tell us quickly about your event in New Ulm?
I think we're still riding the high from it. What a fun! It was fun. We had 3 walking school bus locations that met at different places throughout town. And we had kind of a record number of volunteers that were helping this year. I think there was one picture we even had where there was a walk, bike, and a roll, like all in this group of kids. It was just pretty cool. So I don't know. It was fun. We had a great time, and thankful for the weather too. So that was a really good thing.
I love riding that high, and you know, the 3 like bus stop and walks that you ran. It was really great how many of the photos we got from around the state that were integrating bus stop and walks or remote drops of one way or another. I'd love to see that picture of all of the modes in one shot, by the way. What about Dustin? Are you on the call, Dustin, or Joanne? Want to tell us a little bit about Rochester? I know you did via email. If you're not from Rochester, you might not recognize the celebrity on the right-hand side of the screen here, but I know we have a couple of Rochester. Oh, there you are, Joanne.
Yeah, we had a good day. We had 2 locations for walking. One was a neighborhood spot that was about a mile away, and then about a third of a mile for a park and walk. So we had kids at both locations. We always have the football team there, and Slider, who's the mascot for the local baseball team, the mayor, the superintendent. So we had a couple of media show up to do stories on it. So that's always good. And then one of the things that we did this year that's different, we chose the school for the site based on our next spot where we want to do a demonstration project. So our transportation engineer also was out there just watching the traffic and talking to the crossing guards to get some information.
That's highly strategic of you, Joanne. I love it. I love it. Well, maybe you can tell me later what some of your traffic engineers' takeaway was of watching that particular intersection, but that's awesome to hear. Let me take us up into the state, into Grand Forks. Anybody from Grand Forks on the call?
I'm here. This is Tina.
Hi, Tina.
Hi.
Did you want to tell us a little bit about? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. We had Grand Forks staff, Safe Kids Grand Forks staff. We only have 4 of us in the office, and we were all deployed to a different school. We had 8 schools in our greater Grand Forks area all together participating and celebrating. So what you see here is our kiddos over at Kelly Elementary, just having a good time. We saw lots of kids roll into school. We saw lots of kids wearing helmets, which that's my big drive, as you know, Dave might know about me. So I was really, really excited to see that. And you know, all of our communities were supportive. We had a lot of people honking horns and waving at us and stuff. So it was really good.
Sounds like fun. I like those signs too.
Yeah, I found those in my storage when we were moving stuff around, and so we're deploying those out there. I think they're really cool too.
Yeah, that's a sure sign that you're a transportation nerd when you have signs like that in storage.
Yep, we are.
All right, that's awesome. What about Foley? Is anybody here from Foley? Support this event? No one's here.
Dave, this is Kelly. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure this was a remote drop-off at a church nearby, and then that is what I believe is a new infrastructure project, since I did a walk audit during their planning assistance. So it's kind of cool to see some of the planning come to fruition.
Is this right by the intersection where they had that really rainy, wet,
I believe so.
walk to school day where the umbrellas were flipped inside out? And yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it. Great. What about McCrae? This is another remote drop in a park near the school. I know McCrae has, if there's nobody here, a ship coordinator or anything. I know that they've historically had a great relationship with the fire and police department that have shown up for these events for Walk to School Day. I think I'm seeing some of that in the background of some of these photos. And quite the crowd. Grand Rapids. Is that you, Ann? You just give me a head nod, or do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, no, first year being the Safe Routes coordinator, and we had 4 schools participate, and I really love this picture of this grandpa walked his kids through the trails to get to school, and we had a record turnout at Cohasset. We're just small. Cohasset's a small rural community, so to have that many bikers, I know they don't all have helmets on. That's my next thing too, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we also had a proclamation from the city of Cohasset and the city of Grand Rapids by the mayors, so that was fun too.
Oh wow. All right, that seems like a pretty good run, Ann, for your first Walk to School Day as a Safe Routes coordinator. Right on. And I like those little certificates that you got there. Looks like you printed those from the National Walk and Bike to School Day site. Do the kids love them? How do they feel about them?
Well, of course. I mean, they're you know, this is elementary, and they love anything, and then we had their name on it, and we put in the school colors too.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean about elementary school. I also enjoy a good certificate, you know, put it up behind me, look official. Anyway, what about La Crescent? Is Jason here today? No, Jason. Kelly, do you have any background? Was this pulled from social media or did this get emailed? Yeah.
Pulled from social media. Just a big, a lot of walkers and bikers that day.
Yeah. And look at those racks outside. Love to see it. What about Lake Park Autobahn School? Anyone?
I think they went out and took a lap around the school is what looks like. Oh, is somebody on the call?
Karen Nitskorsky from Partnership for Health.
Karen.
Hi. Interestingly enough, the PE teacher that coordinates that had knee surgery. So she made sure that it happened without her. And yes, they take a walk around the school.
That's great. Contingency planning is important.
Yes, as a full school event. So that's really great.
Right on, right on. We got North Branch here. It's like an early morning walk. Tons of
Yep,
folks out.
that's us. Yeah, it was
Hi,
a really
Liz.
great event. Hi, this is
Yes.
Liz with Chisago County. So yeah, they are always so involved with the police department. The fire trucks are out, and the event just keeps growing, which is super fun.
It looks big. Did you get a count on how many students participated?
I think they said over 75 this year, 75 to 100, and then like the football team comes out usually, and it was so great.
Yeah, it looks like you're taking back the streets there too. There's like just a parade coming down Main Street.
Yeah, and they get escorted by the fire truck, and the school resource officer is out there stopping traffic for everyone. It was a nice early morning. We were there at 6:40 yesterday morning, so.
Great work, Liz.
Thanks.
What about Dawson Boyd? By the way, I'm really excited about how many people that had events yesterday are here today. I think we're batting like 95% so far. Anybody from Dawson Boyd? All right. What about Perham?
That's Karen again, me. They do a remote drop off, and they get volunteers from all area businesses to walk the kids almost a mile, and the bus drivers drop the kids off at the remote place. Almost all elementary and middle school kids hike that day.
And do you all have high school kids helping out for that event?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Some years.
Yeah, got it.
I don't know about yesterday. It was terrible weather up here.
It looks a little wet. What about Faribault? I'll keep going then. We've got St. Peter. This looks like a remote drop off in St. Peter. Keep moving. Thief River Falls. What about Egan? Woodland Elementary. I'm a fan of doodles. I don't know.
Precisely why these photos are in there. The doggos.
Who doesn't love a doggo? All right. Well, hey, I really enjoyed yesterday too. I don't have any photos this year. My big reflection has been it was the first year that I haven't like managed an event or tried to go big, and I asked my middle school kid if she would let me ride with her to school, and so I rode with her and her friends, and that was my big walk to school day event, which was really actually quite nice. Quiet but nice. So I promised you all after all the walk to school day updates, we would talk a little bit about upcoming solicitations or grant opportunities at the Department of Transportation here. Steve is actually going to be able to tell you a lot more about this statewide Safe Routes to School infrastructure solicitation in a moment. So keep your ears on for that. Similarly, there will be an active transportation solicitation. And for those of you in greater Minnesota, I believe we have our Transportation Alternatives Program solicitation kicking off too. And then for non-infrastructure, I know a lot of you are thinking about this. We are developing some new or some revised programs, and so it's taking us a little longer than usual to get those out the door, but we're expecting to have a number of non-infrastructure grants opportunities this fall, and then again in the spring, based on feedback we've heard from those of you in the field. We do intend to open up a Safe Routes to School coordinator grant for school districts. So if you are in a district that has been dying for a Safe Routes to School coordinator, this will be your opportunity to put together an application and see if you can fund that position. I can tell you without question that that has been the best way that we've been able to advance safe routes to school in communities around the state. A number of you are sitting on this call. We are also opening a solicitation for what is called now design assistance. And it looks like a bullet got lost or got pulled up on this one, but it is just design assistance. It's kind of ironic that the bullet got pulled up. The design's kind of messed up. Anyway, we're offering design assistance. And that is similar to engineering studies that we did back in maybe 2018 or 2019. If we have time at the end of this call, we'll spend a little bit of time describing what design assistance is, but the short version is it can take a community's safe routes to school plan and grab some of the identified barriers, infrastructure barriers that are a part of your plan, and help kind of take them to the next step, providing some additional evaluation and then ultimately a design and costs related to that design that make it a little bit easier to move from plan to project. We do hope to roll out the Student Safety Patrol Equipment Grant, and then active transportation planning assistance. Kelly, you might have to tell me why those are in asterisks, because
because it's not safe routes to school, but it is if you want to build on your safe routes to school work or anything like that. It will be a full city or county or multi-city active transportation planning assistance. So second round of it this fall, and then the third round will be next year if you still need to work to get your communities ready to apply. And that should be dropping here within the next week or two.
I have just a couple more details on that here in a second, but just to say then, for those of you that were expecting our planning assistance grant applications and our boost grant applications to be opening this fall, we've shifted the timelines on those so that they're happening kind of towards the end of winter, so that your applications can get reviewed and awarded and under contract all in like a shorter time frame than they would have been in prior years. So just to like circle back to what Kelly was talking about with the active transportation planning solicitation, assistance solicitation, that's opening up here any day now as soon as we clear a couple of internal hurdles. This is very similar to a Safe Routes to School plan. It's a community co-creation of an active transportation action plan. This round of active transportation plans will include a demonstration project or a technical project to help kickstart the implementation of that plan. So when you get to the end of the planning process, that's usually when we'll throw something like that in just to keep the momentum going. We plan to select 8 communities, and we have all kinds of information related to this on our website. I might even drop the link here after I'm done presenting my screen. And then if you have questions about it, you can ask our now ex-Safe Routes to School coordinator from Richfield Public Schools, but now active transportation coordinator here at the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Will. And that's all I've got, Alyssa.
Perfect timing. I was about to time check you, so you wrapped it up before I even needed to do it. Thanks, Dave. I know that was a lot of information for folks. So if you have questions, email Dave, stick them in the chat. And then before I turn it over to Steve, I wanted to note for folks, where did it go? I'm trying to find it now. There's a question in the chat from Liz about for folks who help incorporate walk to school day into the school day itself, and you don't have a good remote drop site for families. How do you promote or encourage schools to participate? If you have advice for Liz, please go ahead and put that in the chat, because that's a great question. So with that, I will keep us moving since we are at the halfway point, and turn it over to Steve. Where are you? I can't find you in the list of people anymore. There's so many.
I'm here. I turned the camera on, so there we go. All right. Let me get everything fired up here and shared. Right. All right, can everybody see that all right?
Looking great. Can hear you just fine.
Perfect. All right, here we go. So yeah, thanks for having me again here today. My name is Steve Prusak, the state aid active transportation engineer. As Dave has already alluded to, I kind of run the infrastructure arms of both the safe routes and active transportation programs here. So it's been a busy time, but we are gearing up and unleashing things here come Monday for both of these. So it's a very timely presentation here today. So I'm going to talk first about kind of just some basic infrastructure 101, run through some common ped bike infrastructure improvements that are out there, kind of define the toolbox a little bit. We'll look at some treatments that cover both intersections and then linear facilities as well. If there's any questions, happy to talk about that, and then take a little bit deeper dive into the Safe Routes infrastructure solicitation, with some program details, talk about eligibility, review some of the key dates, and then just give an update on the program and website status as we are uploading things there on a daily basis. So here are the 11 common improvements that I'm going to run through here today. I think kind of the first 6 there, a little bit more of that intersection or spot treatment, with 7 through 11 being more of those linear facilities. So number 1, marked crosswalks. We'll start, these aren't in any particular order, but I've kind of included some pictures, included some notes on the right here. Certainly didn't cover everything. We can dive in much deeper here, answer questions if there are anything for folks. But this is kind of step 1. Crosswalks help identify pedestrians. Please cross here. Vehicles, this is where you can maybe expect a pedestrian to cross. They can be great for establishing a mid-block crossing location, designating school zones. But important caveat is that they don't enhance safety just by laying them out there. They do need to be supplementary or treated with other things, lighting, signage, etc., to really make that impact. And then I do note that it is a relatively low-cost treatment, but then does require regular maintenance. And sometimes the materials can have some sway on how frequently that maintenance is required. Kind of a next step are medians and crossing islands. The picture here shows a mid-crossing place of refuge, which allows users that are trying to cross the street to focus on crossing just one direction of traffic at a time, take a break, and then cross the next direction. There are some recommended standards here that we like to see. 6-foot minimum width is just the bare minimum for mounting signs or getting the truncated domes in there. Kind of any place that is more serving bikes or having a little bit more capacity, we'd like to see 8 feet as kind of a desirable starting point. And then they're even going up to 10 feet for frequent bike traffic. In addition to providing that spot for pedestrians to pause while going across, this does provide a visually narrowed corridor. So it does also help kind of corral speeds a little bit. And it does offer the opportunity to present and post additional signage on both ends. These can be a little bit tricky when you get to winter maintenance, but they're relatively common now.
Steve, before you move on, as a non-engineer, can I ask, what is a truncated dome?
Yeah, the truncated domes are the steel plates that are inserted into the ramp to provide a tactile sensation for the visually impaired. So they're usually 2 feet deep by the width of your crossing. All right, curb extensions and curb radius reductions. Picture here shows an extension, also called bump outs, of the sidewalk and curb into the roadway, which accomplishes a couple of things. It reduces the distance users must cross, while at the same time limiting their exposure and protection from vehicular traffic. It also accomplishes improved sight distance, both for vehicles and pedestrians, as they do push back parking away from the crossing and away from the intersection. A nice thing with these is through a demonstration project, they can be laid out in some temporary materials just to get some data on how things are working before you take that full step of building them out. And as noted there again, another challenge here. There might be some challenges here for large vehicles, those buses, snowplows, etc. That can be a great part of actually temporarily building these out and seeing how they work. And a note there as well that in order to actually build this, we may need to actually do some additional storm sewer improvements or modifications in that full implementation. Raised crosswalks. These are a little bit less frequently used in Minnesota, but there are some locations. The picture here is along Wheelock Parkway in St. Paul. What these are a combination of that marked crosswalk from earlier and a speed table, a vertical deflection in the road that prioritizes pedestrian comfort and safety. So you're kind of lifting up the roadway to meet the sidewalk, so there is no depression there through a pedestrian ramp. You still do have the truncated domes you can see there at the pedestrians as they're crossing. But this accomplishes a couple things. That vertical deflection reduces vehicle speeds, it lifts the pedestrians up, enhances their visibility. As noted here, limited applications, and this may not be a great treatment for a high volume street or ones that have a lot of large truck or transit presence, as that vertical deflection can make for a bumpy ride. Again, winter maintenance and drainage can be a design challenge to make these things fit and function correctly, which has been part of their resistance here in Minnesota. Now starting to get into some more signal-based, more expensive levels of treatment here. The pedestrian hybrid beacon, aka PHB, also formerly known as the Hawk. This is a pedestrian activated overhead beacon installed at an otherwise unsignalized intersection or mid-block crossing. These are most effective. You can see the example in the photo there. That is a long straight corridor, 4 lanes, and kind of fits that definition, both high speed and volume. Looking for moderate to high pedestrian traffic there, do have that's an MUTCD data point there. 20 pedestrians per hour minimum is kind of that threshold for looking at this. And sometimes this would be a good application where there's either not enough to warrant a full traffic signal, or as shown in this picture here, no necessarily need for one. This does rise into the 100 to 150K dollar value as an improvement. It's basically a signal system with all the appurtenances there, the cabinets, the mast arms, the poles, push buttons, and signage here as well, and does have similar maintenance as well to a traffic signal. A slightly smaller scale improvement in a similar vein are the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, RFBs. These can be either manually or passively activated treatment at an uncontrolled intersection, consisting of at least 2. This picture example here actually has 3, including one in the center median there. Each device includes, both these devices are multi-directional. You can see them from both sides. They include a flashing beacon with accompanying signage attached to a pole, and those are running about 30K per pole, basically per unit. These have a lot of flexibility in terms of how they're powered. The ones in the photo are solar powered, but they can also be hardwired into the existing electrical grid. And then these are more effective on kind of that 2-lane, maybe a little bit lower volume, than the crossing that was shown there for the hybrid beacon system. Okay, and now kind of transitioning a little bit here to some linear treatments here. Sidewalk, the low cost basic treatment that provides both separated and comfortable pedestrian mobility. The example shown here in the photo shows a little bit wider than normal application, which can serve large volumes of users and or service, again, as shown in the photo, multi-directional travel. A couple of things to consider as you're adding some concrete here. Is there enough right of way to place this facility? Do trees need to be removed? Utilities need to be relocated? And then there's always that question of who will maintain the sidewalk in the winter. So you might potentially need some community or adjacent stakeholder support to make things happen here. And that is about $4 to $5 per square foot on a treatment level. Shared use paths are the next steps, so maybe have a little bit more width to work with. These are the wider facilities that accommodate both a range of users and speeds. We're looking to separate bicyclists, pedestrians from vehicular traffic, and if space allows, as shown in the photo, you can even provide separation from each other. This allows for smoother, faster travel, but inherent to that are challenges with intersections and street crossings, crossings of railroads, and or connections to other trails. And depending on location, this can be in that $500,000 per mile type range for construction cost. On-street bike lanes, these are pavement markings and signage that provide dedicated space for bicyclists within the roadway. The example shown there in the photo shows a buffered bike lane, which is that cross-hatched area, which provides a little bit, defines a little bit of a no man's land, and for increased safety and comfort of bikers. You can also see here the red car in the photo appears to be turning right. I see a signal on there. That is the caveat here. You don't have any physical barrier there between the bikes and vehicles. So you do still have those interactions with turning vehicles and or opening doors if this is the bike lane is adjacent to parking. The nice thing about this is that these can be implemented without a lot of reconstruction. If a road is undergoing a road diet or restriping, you can reallocate the space and add these facilities. Or you can add it along with just a overlay or as part of a much greater project. Separated bike lanes and cycle tracks would be kind of the next step up. These are exclusive facilities for bikes located within or directly adjacent to a roadway. Here you've taken and you've added some physical separation and also vertical elevation between the bikes and vehicles. These are most effective and most frequently found in urban cores where you have a lot of bicycle traffic already. The caveat with this is that with the people, with that density in the urban core, you've got all sorts of other things competing for that same space. Which is nicely shown in this picture here. Pedestrians, bikes, you've got drainage to work with, pedestrian crossing, signals, transit, deliveries, and parking to all juggle and make harmoniously coexist. So definitely a design challenge. And then finally, grade separated crossings. This is introducing vertical separation, either an overpass or underpass that allows ped bikes and motor vehicles on an uninterrupted flow. This is most effective at locations that have heavy volumes of each mode and where at-grade crossings are either not safe or not feasible. This does bring very high levels of safety and comfort, but also at high costs. we're getting into the millions of dollars here for these types of improvements. And then the caveat here is that these need to be convenient and direct, such that they actually get used, and discourage folks from taking any shortcuts or working around it. So with that, okay, this is on to the infrastructure program here. Are there any questions here on the 101?
I think I would love to kick us off with a question, and while I kick us off with a question, actually launch a poll, because I'm super curious, having looked at some of these, what people are excited about on this list. Maybe there's like some things that you have used in a project, or that you have seen in your community that you think are really awesome. Maybe there's one of these where you're like, oh, I didn't think about using that treatment near my school, but I would love to think about how to apply for an infrastructure grant. So folks could take just a minute and mark any of the ones that they're super excited about. I would love to see that. Because I have a couple in mind where I'm like, I want to see more of these in my community. But I'm curious, Steve, so you listed these sort of 11 as like the most sort of introductory or common treatments. I'm wondering if there are like other treatments that people could think about or have on their minds. I'm thinking about, like, in my neighborhood, traffic circles and traffic diverters, right, as things that don't necessarily stand out as walking and biking infrastructure, right? They're not like a place to put a bike, but they do make those routes better for people walking and biking because of the way that they interact with cars. So just curious about if there's any thoughts you have on that.
Yeah, you're entirely correct. There's a number of things, and that's a good defining point there. Yeah, there are things that you can do to calm traffic and make things more inviting for pedestrians and bikers on existing infrastructure as well. Some things we were talking about roundabouts before the project started. There's another thing there, again, that has those shorter crossing distances. Oftentimes, again, in my previous life, I've done, you're starting to see RFBs. I think this is new with ProAg being adopted here. RFBs at crossings at roundabouts as well. So a lot of these things can be kind of joined together or built on top of one another, built in unison to create and define some other areas. So yeah, I mean, there's a number of other things. Could certainly pass along some other guidance here, but I will just kind of state that I think anything here that I kind of talked about is all things that would be eligible or certainly in the wheelhouse for grant applications.
I see Joanne has a hand up, and I'll give a 30-second warning on the poll, and then I'll close that while Joanne is talking.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that there are some parameters on which things that you can use and how much capacity there is, how much traffic there is, that determines which one you can use, which is great, because I think we all want the high end items and a flashing light everywhere. So how would you determine that? I'm assuming that all these things then have to have a traffic study prior to implementation, and who does that and how much do they cost?
Yeah, oftentimes you would probably do want to get a little bit of study there. I mean, you do get into some numbers here, and having that those thresholds, those counts can certainly help you evaluate and determine which one is going to be the best fit for your situation here. Some of those numbers are not necessarily, there's a little bit of gray or discretion that's involved in there as well. Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess, coming from a consultant background, yes, I mean, a traffic study would be something here that would probably be recommended, something that they could do and help with. I think that this is, most of these are pretty well defined, although some of the guidance is kind of changing and evolving and getting established. But yeah, that might be my recommendation there.
So I'm still not clear about that. So if you were going to apply for funding, would you need to have that traffic study done prior to applying, or would that be part of the grant funding that you would ask for? And is that usually done locally, or do you usually have consultants come in and do that?
Yeah, so a couple things there. Engineering is not an eligible expense with either of the grants that we do. That'll be something that would be more coming from Dave's end, Dave and Kelly's end of the spectrum here. You know, my grants are purely infrastructure based, so that construction piece. So yeah, I think we ultimately kind of look to have some of that maybe planning done ahead of time to help say, this is the recommended treatment here. This is what we're applying for. Submit that planning document with justification, whether that's your traffic study counts that help support that decision. And then you can apply, and at that point, kind of turn it over to design and get into some of the finer details, should your project be selected.
So Steve, if I can try to synthesize before I toss it over to Michael,
Sure.
Has her hand raised. Just that, like, the infrastructure grants are really focused on building the infrastructure, not planning for building the infrastructure. MnDOT does have other opportunities to apply for that sort of like pre-work and get that funded, but not in this particular grant opportunity. But it is important to have that pre-work and that evidence generated when we're applying for infrastructure grants.
Yes, yeah.
Good summary?
Yep. That all is correct. Is yes, purely construction costs for my grants. And yes, the more that background information that you can provide and upload along with your application, the better it's going to be. It's going to serve your application.
Michael, you want to jump in, and then I see Liz has a question in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know I haven't had the opportunity to meet everyone yet, but I'm Michael Wojcik. I'm the new executive director with BikeMN, and I've had some experience trying to get various kinds of safe routes to school infrastructure done. And it's I kind of laughed at the question of which are you excited about, because I'm excited about the ones that are easiest and the quickest to put in place and that can be most easily prototyped, and they're not necessarily the glamorous things. You know, there are a few logistical considerations that you have to think about as you're looking at these, not the least of which is if you're on a state aid street that's going to require a certain level of service. A lot of these things, even though they'd be much safer, may actually get in conflict with using state aid funds on those streets. I know we actually, when I was on the city of council of Rochester, the reality is we had some great traffic calming infrastructure that we were ordered by MnDOT to remove because it lowered the level of service on the streets or the average speed. I would say that in particular, the bulb outs and the traffic circles are fantastic options because you can get some bollards and some paint and prototype them really quickly and see if they work and try them in a number of locations and figure out which ones are the best. If you want to do these big projects, the reality is the kid that's going into kindergarten might be in high school before they get done. So that's why some of these little projects are maybe a little bit more practical. And, you know, the last thing I'll throw on is ultimately, when you're thinking about school locations, putting them on existing safe routes is so much better than putting them at the edge of town, because you're always going to be competing with fast moving traffic when you're putting it into greenfield development areas. So I've lived this experience myself and would really encourage folks to look at your communities and figure out what are the things that we can do in a few months to try and prove them out, as opposed to, you know, pursuing some of these great looking projects, which might just not get done for a long, long time.
Thanks, Michael, for sharing some of your experience. Yeah, I think I too am a big fan of quick build things and just making the changes we can make now for the kids who are in school now. So the last question I see from Liz is just a question about maximum distance from a school that would still be considered a safe routes project. Somebody chimed in with thinking it's about a mile. Steve, does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that's a commonly held threshold. I guess there might be some subjectivity there. You know, is it going to be straight rejected if it's 1.1? Probably not. But that's probably a good, reasonable boundary to consider. For ones that do fall beyond that, you know, I do also kind of administer, and I'm going to lead contact for active transportation. You know, as you start to get beyond that, it might be more natural to apply to that program in lieu of safe routes.
Steve, really quickly, I'm going to share these poll results because I think they are fascinating before we move on to talk a little bit about infrastructure grants for the last couple of minutes. People are huge fans of the RFB. I always want to say RFB beacons, but then I'm doing the ATM machine thing. Huge fans of RFBs, and seeing also that people are really interested in some of those like longer term improvements, sidewalks, shared use paths, curb extensions and curb radii. The thing I like the most is raised crosswalks, and that did not fare very well interest wise, but interesting to see what kinds of things folks are thinking about implementing in their communities, or perhaps because they're already in their communities. So with that, with our last 5 minutes, Steve, I'll toss it back to you to talk a little bit more about the grants that people can apply to do some of these things.
Yeah, sure. All right, let me get there we go. Yeah, as mentioned, the next few slides here are really focused on the safe routes infrastructure solicitation, but I do also manage the active transportation. There's a lot of parallels between the two programs. I'll try to highlight those as I go through here. But starting out here, program details and eligibility for the infrastructure solicitation. $10.9 million is what we're looking to solicit this year. It is all state money. That means there's no local match required. We can pay for up to 100% of a project, assuming it's all eligible items. Eligible applicants include schools, cities, counties, townships, and tribal applicants, which are new this year. Projects must improve safety and ability of people to walk, bike, or roll to school. For this program, we're looking for those well-conceived and strongly supported projects that are only really looking for that funding boost in order to become realized. 2024 and 2025 construction is kind of our parameters or target for projects. And then our range of awards this year will go from $50K to $1 million, which we have bumped up a little bit since last solicitation. Some key dates here. This coming Monday, we are kicking off. All dates shown here are going to be one-to-one between both of the infrastructure programs. So just kind of keep that in mind, and the process will be very similar. The pot is a little bit bigger on AT. I think we're at 13 million there, but everything from here on out will be very similar. So Monday, here, October 9th, we open the solicitation with a 1-month period for letters of intent. A letter of intent is kind of a light version of the application that allows MnDOT staff to kind of take a look and see what people are coming up with and give some feedback saying, this is ready for prime time, go ahead and submit a full application, or this one maybe needs to cook a little bit more, and here's some things that you could do, and maybe hold submittal for a future solicitation. So on Thursday, November 9th, that'll be the deadline for letter of intent submittals. Again, that 1-month period. I will process those letters of intent on a rolling basis, but I will give a response back no later than Wednesday, November 22nd, which is the day before Thanksgiving. And then following Thanksgiving there, Monday, November 27th, the full application period will open up. That will close on Friday, February 2nd, giving folks a few months there to pull things together. And then once things close, we'll begin scoring, doing a lot of synthesis and analysis, and development, working with our advisory committee to make the final selections and approvals. And then those we are looking to be announcing in either April or May, depending on the number of applications received. Both pots for these programs have grown since previous solicitations, so we do expect a lot of interest. But we won't know until we actually get there as to what those numbers are. So just building in a little bit of protection and leeway for us with those dates.
And Steve, can I ask
Yeah.
one quick clarifying question? Maybe I missed it. The letter of intent is it's not an optional part of the process. It's a required part of the process, correct?
No, yeah,
Like,
thanks for asking.
not
Yeah, it is not a required piece. It is kind of advisory, but it is a good test for people that regularly apply for these type of grants. It's probably a little more optional. We do kind of strongly encourage it for first-time applicants, people that are kind of unfamiliar with the process or do it a little bit irregularly. But there's no mandate to submit it, and there's no mandate to follow our recommendations. If you still choose to apply when we say maybe let it maybe apply in a future one, you can go right ahead. So it is purely an advisory process. So here listed is the Safe Routes Infrastructure website. As I mentioned earlier, we are posting things to that on kind of a rolling basis here in preparation for Monday's launch. We do have a several page document of frequently asked questions about the program. That's posted and available now for both programs. I think maybe even by the time I get back to my desk here, the informational webinars, I gave a series of 3 presentations of the same webinar for each program through the month of September. Hopefully some folks here were able to see those and check those out. We are posting the slide deck from those presentations to the website here before the end of the week. The letter of intent application, as well as a kind of step-by-step guide to submitting that and filling out that online form, will be posted on Monday, hopefully right off the bat. And then on the right side of that webpage, there are a few other things there if people want to take a deeper dive into the process or some of the scoring tools that we use. There are links there. One is the Safe Routes to School Equity Atlas. This is a very key part of the application, and it's a score from 1 to 100 that kind of synthesizes a number of data points about particular schools, crash rates, transportation mode availability, a number of socioeconomic factors that kind of are all baked into a single score. That score is then extracted by MnDOT and then included as part of the application score. So that really gets at that equity focus and make sure that we're directing this money towards places that have been disadvantaged or potentially skipped over here. And making sure that
Steve, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
Just to say that I know that you're presenting this information right now. The application goes live on Monday, and we're actually pushing updated data out to the equity tool that will be live on Monday, but is outdated today. So don't jump over there right now and spend any time in the equity tool looking at your schools, because that information will change by the time the application is open. And that's just to update what was true in 2020 about schools versus what was true in 2022.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for that, Dave. And then finally, there is the state fund grantee user guide. This is a little bit more in the weeds about what is the exact process, who's doing what in terms of the applicant agency and MnDOT as we go through the process of awarding the selection, working through design and approvals, getting connected and establishing grant agreements and documents, kind of binding folks together contractually, and then on to construction as to how the whole process will work. So a few more details there if folks want to take a deep dive. So I think that's the end. And yep, there's my contact information. Any questions on either program can be directed to me there.
Thank you, Steve. I know we ran a few minutes over, but I think that was a lot of really useful information for folks. And I'm glad we captured all of it on the webinar recording for folks who might have had to jump off right at 11. So thank you so much for joining us for 2 months in a row. It was really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Always nice to have an engineer on the call. And thanks everybody else for joining us today. Looking forward to seeing you all in the November call. I'm not going to pull up slides or talk more about it because it's time to wrap up, but was happy to see you all and celebrate Walk to School Day with you. And we'll see you all in November. Thanks, team.